Oh, happy Easter. We are celebrating rebirth, renewal, regeneration, resurrection, the idea of overcoming, the idea of possibility, the victory of love. That's really it. We're celebrating the victory of love. And, Jesus personally, experienced this, demonstrated this for us, and we're celebrating that. And we know that unity is not a religion about Jesus, but more of a philosophy, a way of life that is inspired in large part by Jesus' teachings and others, right? So we see resurrection as this idea of transcending the belief in separation, that we're separate from God, we're separate from each other, we're separate from our good, so that we can rise into the Christ consciousness that is within us and live from that higher awareness. That's the possibility that is available to us, rising into that and expressing the highest that is within us. Now, what it is not is this idea of overcoming our humanness. And let me explain. I know that we used to kind of go there, and I think back in the day and back in Fillmore's time, he certainly believed that in order to enter Christ consciousness, that we needed to rise above our human needs and desires, and really he talked about this idea of sense consciousness. If you read a lot of his writings, he talks about sense consciousness and how we needed to conquer that in order to progress spiritually. But what I love about unity is that it's an ever-evolving movement. And I think if Fillmore was alive today, he'd be evolving right along with it, right along here. And so there is, particularly recently, this move towards embodied spirituality. Embodied spirituality. So it's not denying our humanness, it's really embracing it. It's really embracing it. And then, of course, there is the passage that Fillmore himself wrote that I read last week that really rocked my world. It still is. It's still reverberating in me. And this is his metaphysical interpretation of the cross, of what it represents, right? And he says, I'll share it again in case you weren't here, the crystallization of two currents of thought. The vertical bar symbolizes the inner current of divine life. The horizontal bar symbolizes the cross current of human experience. And as I said last week, we live here at the intersection of the two of them. This inner current of divine life and the cross current of human experience. Here we are, right here in between the two. Ooh, what a place to be. What does that mean? And I think our goal is to understand it fully. So maybe the place to begin is to understand that this is not an either-or situation. It's not our humanness or spirituality. We don't have to choose, thank God. But if we are here in the physical dimension, in this human realm, and we're on a spiritual path, we must find a way to live both and. Now, I know for myself, personally, if I'm honest, sometimes I get really caught in my humanness. I'm noticing my body age. It's depressing. I get caught in my emotions. I forget I'm a co-creator, and I feel it at the effect of the world. I forget my oneness with others. Anyone else? Yeah, I think most of us live from our humanness most of the time. And some people live exclusively from their humanness because they don't know. They don't know that they're really divine beings having a human experience. And they're not aware of that. So they live from their humanness most of the time, which is a trap. You know, you get lost in the dictates of the ego and fear and, victim consciousness. And you're just not growing into the fullness of who you truly are. And so on the other side of this experience of being caught in my humanness, sometimes, not as frequently, infrequently, but sometimes I am totally in that spirit realm, feeling purely spirit, in a deep meditation, communing with nature, in any kind of transcendent experience. I'm feeling pure spirit, and boy, I don't want to come back into my human limitation. I don't want to come back. I want to stay there. But I think that this is where we want to be. Ready? Take a deep breath with me. Those of you watching online, are you taking a deep breath? We want to spiritualize our humanness and humanize our spirituality. So let's explore what that means. Spiritualize our humanness. Humanize our spirituality. Okay, so, first of all, I believe that we are spirit beings, first, who have chosen to come into the physical human realm, the human dimension. We've chosen this for some reason. I'm not sure what it is yet. But hey, there's a lot of benefits from being in this physical world. You know, it's pretty beautiful right now. We're enjoying that. You know, think of the fragrance, a sweet fragrance of honeysuckle. Is there anything better than that? Or the smell and the taste of an orange when you peel it. Or a drink of really cold water on a really hot day. That feels good. Or the song of a cardinal, a beautiful song. Or the sound of beautiful music. Moving your body to music. Or moving your body in play or sports or whatever it is that you enjoy. A kiss from the one you love. And anything else. Can I say that here? It's part of it, right? That's part of it. Experiencing a rainbow. You don't just see a rainbow, you experience a rainbow. The taste of chocolate ganache cake. A massage, massage. Or a million other physical delights. That's a very compelling reason. I mean, you've got to have a physical body to experience that. It's a very compelling reason to be here, to have that experience. And at the same time, it can be a trap because we can forget who we truly are, the spiritual depth of us. And also, each of those things that I mentioned has an opposite. They all have an opposite. So think of the smell of garbage, or physical pain, or the sound of gunfire. You know, we are non-dual beings living in a world of duality. How do we reconcile that? That's the question. How do we reconcile that? I think maybe one thing we can do is to remember that our physical self, our human self, is really the smallest part of who we are. I know it's our largest experience, but it's really the smallest part of who we are. The largest part of us, by far, is this infinite, universal, eternal, limitless, divine that is expressing through and as us. That's who we are. And I know that sounds abstract. You know, it's like, well, how do I experience? That's too abstract. How do I experience that? But we can experience it. In fact, we can experience it right now. Right in this moment. I invite you to sit back. Again, close your eyes if it's comfortable for you. And begin to pay attention to your breath. You don't have to force it in any way or try to breathe deeply. Just pay attention to the breath that is there. And consider the idea that that breath that you're breathing is not initiated by your personal will. That breath is that infinite, universal, eternal that is breathing through and as you. And that breath is the breath of life. It enlivens you. And it is an energy of love. This breath of life is an energy of love. And consider the idea that when it's time for you to release your physical self, that breath of love continues in the non-physical. But right now, in this physical form, feel it. Feel it enlivening every cell of your body. Feel that breath moving through every cell of your being, rejuvenating, bringing back life, feeling that aliveness, restoring the wholeness that is the truth in every cell, organ, and function of your being. Okay, take a nice deep breath with me and bring your awareness back. So to spiritualize our humanness, we can connect with this awareness as we're enjoying the delights of our human existence. And to do that, we can connect with our breath. That's how we remember our eternal self, is through the breath. And it can fill our heart with gratitude for all of the temporary joys of our humanness. We really want to open to the gratitude. So, you know, Thich Nhat Hanh, who is the Vietnamese Buddhist monk who made his transition into the non-physical, he said this: when the mind goes back to the present moment, it also goes back to the body. Body and mind are united. Breathing is a bridge between mind and body. Breathing is a bridge between mind and body. And I would add the breathing is a bridge between that eternal self and our human self. And maybe that's what he meant. But we can bring that to our awareness, that bridge between the two. The other thing I'll share is that before I met and married my husband, I dated a guy who was very much into self-realization fellowship, you know, Paramahansa Yogananda's meditation, and he was in California, so we would go together to the center. We did a lot of the practices together, and it was great. And one of the practices that I continued for a long time, even after we broke up, was the prayer that Yogananda said before a meal. It was the grace, and I had it memorized at one point, but I'm going to read it now. Heavenly Father, receive this food, make it holy. Let no impurity of greed defile it. The food comes from thee. It is to build thy temple. Spiritualize it. Spirit to spirit goes. We are the petals of thy manifestation, but thou art the flower. Permeate our souls with the fragrance of thy presence. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. So that's how we can enjoy the physical with the awareness that we are spirit and that everything else is spirit. Everyone and everything else is spirit. That's one way we can do it. Another way that we can spiritualize our humanness is to have compassion for our humanness and all of our feelings and hopes and dreams and fears and frustrations and limitations. To have compassion. I mean, we are all in process, right? Anybody arrived yet? We're all in process. We're all learning here. We're all on a journey toward wholeness, which is what we say at the beginning of the service as part of our mission statement. We celebrate that journey toward wholeness. So to have love and compassion for ourselves on this journey. You know, this physical dimension is very seductive. So we want to have compassion for ourselves to make it through this journey with all of its pitfalls. And we can do that, you know, there's many meditations that we can do that really hold ourselves in love and compassion. And if it speaks to you, you can call upon a spiritual being, Jesus, if you resonate with that, or an angel, or a goddess, or whatever you resonate with. Call upon that and just feel yourself held in the embrace of love. Love, compassion, acceptance for where we are in this moment, wherever we are on our path. That's how we can spiritualize our humanness. So let's look at maybe what it means to humanize our spirituality. So last week I was sharing about Fillmore's metaphysical interpretation of the story in Exodus, where Pharaoh just would not let the Israelites go. He was enslaving them for a long time and just wouldn't let them go. He was just holding on. It took 10 plagues for him to get the message, And so Fillmore says that represents our resistance to allowing that higher spiritual awareness from entering every level of our being. That it's that disconnect between the spiritual realization and our physical our body, or our body of affairs. We want to carry through that understanding, that awakening, whatever awakening that we get, whatever realization we get, we want to carry it through into our lives, into our body of affairs, into the world. We want to channel that higher love into the world in as many ways that we possibly can. So one of the, I don't know if you were aware this week, but on Tuesday, we actually sent out, it was part of one of the inspirational emails that goes out. How many of you look at those inspirational emails that goes out on Tuesday? It's full of all kinds of good stuff. And this Tuesday, we sent out a link to a video that was like just happening, that there was this diverse interfaith delegation that came together. There were priests, rabbis, Buddhist monks, Hindus, an Islamic imam, all 12 in all. And they went to Ukraine. And they were walking the streets with the Ukrainians and listening to them and praying with them. And then they met later on in the day in this hall, and they all got up to kind of share, what they came to talk about. Some did practices, which is really cool. But all of them had a common message. It was our shared values, what unifies us. And they were there to really assure the Ukrainian people that the world cares about you. The world cares about them. You know, it was such a beautiful, inspiring moment, you know, in a time and place of so much suffering. And they were saying, each of them said in their own way, it is time to speak up. You know, it's a time for silence. It's a time to speak up. It's a time to show how much we care. It's a time to take action. So one of the rabbis, I think he was helping to organize the event, Rabbi Wittenberg, put it simply, the presence of God lives in the human heart. Presence of God lives in the human heart. Now, we know a lot of people have their hearts closed. They don't feel that love. They certainly don't express it. So our prayer is hearts open. All hearts open to experience and express that love. And truly, that eternal, divine love uses our hearts to love others, uses our hands to build, to repair, uses our brains to connect with others, to communicate with others, uses our feet to bring assistance to others. This is how we humanize our spirituality. We're bringing this higher love into our lives and into the world in as many ways that inspire us. This is how we live at the intersection between fully divine, fully human, spiritualizing our humanness, humanizing our spirituality.